Hi guys, a very good evening. This is Srinivas from BYJU'S Exam Prep. I'm going to talk to you today in the evening about preparation for the personal interview round. In the last session that I've taken on YouTube, I have talked about in general the GDPI and the WAT that happens. I explained very briefly what happens in a PI, what will happen in a GD, what will happen in a WAT if administered. Today's session is all about PI, so I'm going to talk a little bit more in depth about this particular area called the personal interview round. I'm not going to talk about the GD or the WAT, so that I'll be taking up in separate sessions. Today's session is dedicated only to the PI, right? So let's go ahead and take a look at what happens in the personal interview exactly, okay? So personal interview is the ideal tool to judge a candidate's abilities. Now this is a very common term. What do you need to understand here is what are these abilities that they are going to judge. Because if you understand the abilities, then you will be able to prepare accordingly, and therefore hopefully you will be you'll be answering the way you want to answer. So let's take a look at what are the abilities that they are going to judge. Apart from the abilities, there are few more things that the institute will also want to judge you on. These things are your aspirations. This is very important to them because they want to churn out people who are aspiring to do great things. Remember guys, the way they believe or the way they think is, and this is a fact, their institute seats are precious. They are very precious. It cannot be given to everyone and anyone. Obviously, we all know that. There are certain number of seats and it takes a great deal of skill, determination, effort and kind of a bit of luck also to get into these kind of seats. So if that is the case, they can't generally hand it over to anyone. So they need to know the students who are getting in and they will represent the institute throughout their life. So I don't want to, take a student who would ideally over a period of time not do anything great to my institute. In fact, if I believe that the student is demotivated or is not aiming for anything great in the life, probably he is not the ideal student for my college. Because at the end of the day, 5 years later, if he's performing really bad, somebody will question which school is he from, which college is he from, and my college name will come out. Therefore, I will be having a bad name because of the student's actions. Now, this is not a foolproof way. I cannot say that everybody who comes out of my college is going to be perfect, but as much as possible, I'll try to avoid taking students who are not serious. So, it is very important to know about the candidate's aspirations. The other thing is motivation. Obviously, an aspiration is good enough, but is there enough motivation for the student? And if I want to reach something, what is my motivation to to get that aspiration? What is it that motivated me to think about this? What is it that motivated me to plan for this or aim for this? If the motivation is really strong, then the chances are very high that the student will reach where he wants to reach, or she wants to reach, not just he. But yeah, if the motivation is just like that because my friend is doing, my parents are asking me to do, then it means that this will die down very quickly. And if the motivation dies down, then the goal cannot be achieved. And again, the story is you're back to square one. The institute will not be happy giving you a seat in their college, right? So that's the reason why they will also look at motivation. And of course, strengths are required. The reason why strengths are required as well as weaknesses, both together, is because they need to understand whether you will be able to gel with the other students, because they want to have an environment which will be challenging, but at the same time you will find and form new friends, new bonds. You need to understand how to deal with people, how to deal with people who are nasty, how to deal with people who are really good. They deliberately, in fact, in my opinion, nobody talks about it, but I definitely feel that there will be certain students who nobody likes, but they take the students simply because they want 1 or 2 people like that in the group. So if I have a batch of 350, I can't take all 350 nice students. I will take 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 students who are a bit irritating for that matter. Because as a manager, I will have all types of people under me. So if I am training to become a manager, I need to be able to deal with my peers who are not really good to be or easy to be dealt with. So how will I get that knowledge? You can't read that in a book. This is practical experience that you need. So there are all types of students. Of course, 99% of them are going to be brilliant. But yes, there will be that 1% of the batch which who will be kind of laid back, lazy, sometimes very nasty also. But you need to be able to learn how to deal with them, and they will also be taken in that way. So these are the various areas that they check, but let's go ahead and take a look at how do they check these areas, okay? So in this CAT, so what is tested, as I already said, communication skills. So let us understand how these communication skills are tested. Of course, in an interview, you speak. So when you speak, your basic vocabulary, your basic English is anyway tested. There's no doubt about it. But communication is not about speaking in English at all. Communication is also about making sure that your idea in the way that you want to represent is conveyed to the other person. So when there is a discussion happening about a topic, whether the topic is of your choice or not, the way you convey your ideas will talk about how good you are as a person who can speak, as a person who can make the others know what you feel and think. So typically the interview, there will at least be 2 or 3 discussions where they try to bring this aspect out of by asking you questions. It could be about questions from your life. It is not necessarily about some great subjects that you have learned. But it could be simply about your personal questions, your personal experiences, something you like, something you don't like, somewhere you succeeded, somewhere you failed. They could discuss about any of these areas just to see how you will speak to them. Okay, so that is one way in which the communication skills will be tested. There are many ways. In fact, written communication, verbal communication, written communication, anyway, WAT is taken care of. Verbal communication, speaking verbally and explaining to them, that's what is happening in the interview. Okay. Then the next thing, of course, is team building or leadership skills. Now, how do they judge a leader in a one interview, right? That's a big question you need to understand. So it so happens that you can't or you don't have to show leadership skill in the interview per se by doing something, but they will look at your accomplishments over the period of your life. So if you have been a school head boy, you have led a school, you have led a team in your office, they're going to discuss about that. What is your experience? What did you do there? Why did you become, or how did you become a leader? Or were you appointed or were you elected? What were the hurdles you faced? So it's very difficult to bluff there. You can say that, sir, I was so and so in my office. They'll start asking you questions, and if you can't handle them, they'll take one of the 2 inferences. One, you are lying, or this guy did something but he doesn't know what he did. So if they believe you also, it's that you will be getting less marks simply because you don't know the answers, which means they'll say that, okay, this guy did it, but it's of no use because he didn't understand what he's doing. Or they'll not believe you outright. Either way, you're not going to get any brownie points just by lying. So ideally, I would recommend stick to the side of the truth, be honest, and don't randomly talk about leadership skills. If you are a fresher in the college or you're just into your office, you did not do anything with respect to leadership skill, nothing wrong. I'm not saying that you will not get in if you don't have this. If you have, it is good, just like work experience. There are a lot of freshers get in, right? Similarly, a lot of people without leadership skills also get in. It's not mandatory. But yeah, if you have it, talk about it. If you don't have it, don't bluff, right? Then the other thing they'll talk about is problem solving skills. What is this problem solving? Already they checked your problem solving skills in your CAT exam, right? So then what are they checking here? Here the checking is different. In the exam, in the entrance exam, what they talk about, what they check about is your aptitude, which is different from your problem solving skills here. Here the problem solving are of 2 broad varieties. One is once again your school class problems or a logical problem or a logical puzzle to see how you think under pressure. Now, where is the pressure, you might ask? Well, them staring at you very sternly like this and with an eyebrow raised itself is pressure, right? So that itself is pressure. But then how do you handle that? Even if I give you a moderate level puzzle or less than moderate level puzzle, can you handle it when there are 2 people who are judging you, assessing you and trying to make you feel uncomfortable once in a while? They generally don't. They make you feel comfortable, but once in a while it so happens that if I want to turn on the pressure on you, so I will basically make you feel a little bit uncomfortable by asking you some random questions, and then suddenly you ask you a puzzle which can be solvable on a normal day. So how do you react? Is your mind able to adapt to this sudden change of randomness to something that you know, and if it can adapt, can you answer it quickly? So that is what they check. And please remember, in such cases, it is not the answer which is important, it is the process. What is your logical way of thinking? Nobody cares whether you got the right answer or wrong. You get the right answer, it's good. If you don't get the right answer also, there's not, it's not much of a problem, provided your way of thinking is correct. You started correctly, you did all the assumptions correctly, your way of logical thinking is in place, you made a small error, nothing wrong. Okay, they can ask you problem solving skills. This is one side of it, technical, a little bit more logical in nature. They can ask you another side of problem solving also, your life situations. They could ask you questions in your own life, or if there is some issue which is happening. For example, if you're talking about, let's say we discuss, I'm taking an interview, suddenly the discussion has gone into the Ukraine and Russian war. I can ask you a few questions related to that, and probably if you're in that position, what would you do? So here you are trying to, so let us say you are Mr. Narendra Modi. They'll give you a hypothetical situation and you're a phone call to Mr. Putin from Russia. What would you talk to him? On one side, you need the cheap Russian oil, which means you cannot go completely against Russia. On the other hand, war is bad. So how would you handle the situation? And then they'll ask you your opinion about how the leaders are handling the situation right now. So the point is not that you have any great idea or your idea might be better than what is happening right now. Please remember, when you're talking about heads of states, they are being assisted by probably some of the best minds. Together, they are going to advise our PM, and he will go and talk to Mr. Putin, and he will have a set of advisors and he will revert, and so on and so forth. It's not that you can do a better job than all of them, but the point is, how do you think? That is what they want to test there. So that is another thing. Problem solving skill is the other side of it. This is more HR in nature, more real life situation in nature. So they can test you with all of these also. Then of course you have your personality. Now to test your personality, there are a lot of things that they can talk about, and I'm going to take you through some of the most important parts of judging a personality. I'll do that very, very quickly. And of course, general awareness. So this part I'm leaving for now. I'll talk about it in the next 2-3 minutes. But let's move on to the awareness part. General awareness is required. Why is it required? Firstly, remember, you want to be a manager in a company. A company is not isolated. It works in an environment, in a country, in a state, in a district. So if you don't know what is happening, what are the government policies, what are the economic policies, how is the world behaving, what is the world economic scenario, what is the world political scenario, because you say that politics, economics and finance are independent. Politics dictate today's economics. And the policies which are coming into which are forming the economic policies will in turn affect the finance. So all of this are related. So you can't say that I know the theory but I don't know how people are going to behave. All the theory is wasted because you take a step without knowing what the people are going to behave tomorrow morning. That is typically the politics. And if that happens, then your entire effort would be going for a waste. What if I as a company would want to set up a manufacturing plant in one of the states, and I don't know who is going to win, and I don't know what could be the potential output or what could be the potential problem if some other party wins. I'll go and set up a plant there. Suddenly some party wins there which is not expected, and they are pro-union. And they support a lot of unionism, and there the problem starts for me in the factory. Who is going to be liable for that? Because I set up a factory, crores of rupees, hundreds and thousands of crores of rupees, and now I'm going to have problem with the labor union. So if I don't, so I'm not saying that I'm doing anything wrong with the labor union. It sometimes can happen that what I am ready to give and what they are ready to take are not good enough. But then the problem is I can't just say that, okay, it's not like a shop. I want to buy a chocolate, you don't give it to me cheaper, I'll go and buy to the next shop. I can't do that. I already invested crores of rupees there. So without understanding or expecting what could be happening in the potential future, without knowing the awareness of what is going to happen, if you take a business decision, it could be very, very detrimental. Now, it's not that as soon as you pass on, people will let you establish factories. That will be happening at the age of your 45, 50 when you become a big shot in a company. The point is the habit of reading things, the habit of following everything on a regular basis. Do you have the habit or not? That is what they're going to check, because if that habit is something that you inculcated, that you cultivated by now, I'm sure that over the next 10, 12 years, 15 years, you'll be very well read and you'll be in a position to understand how the wind is turning. And that is the reason why awareness will also be tested, right? So let's go ahead and quickly take a look at what are these points where the personal, I think this is, wait, yeah. So I'm going to talk about what happens about the personality traits. How do they judge the personality part? This can be done in multiple ways. Let me start talking to you about the first and the simplest way in which they test. They will start first by asking you to introduce. So as soon as you go, 99.99% of the cases, this question is a guaranteed. So you go, you sit, you'll wish them, they'll also wish you. Then they'll say, hey, Mr. Srinivas, can you introduce yourself to us? Now, what is the purpose of this question? The purpose of the question is they want to see how you are as a normal person without too much of pressure, because you just walked in. If I start talking to you about economics, finance, your integration, calculus if you are from engineering side, or commerce and accounting if you are a commerce student or something like that, you'll be very nervous. So they will usually ask you a question which you know will be asked, so hence you are prepared. So it's like, you get a question paper and the first question you prepared, you read about it just now in the morning. So you know the answer, how confident you are. So they want to see the kind of person you are when you are confident. So they will ask you a question which you are expecting anyway. So this is the answer which will set the tone for the first 7-8 minutes of the interview. So here, the introduction part, you are supposed to tell who you are in the next 60 to 90 seconds. So ideally I would say about 1 minute to about 1.5 minutes could be your introduction. Don't take it more than that. Now, one of the common mistakes that students do is they talk a lot about which school they are from, how many marks they got, how much percentage they got, which subjects they had. Unnecessary, they know all of that. Is that what defines you? Is your school defining you? No. I want to know who is the person sitting in front of me. When I ask you the question, who are you, there should be some identity of yours. Yes, of course, you can say that I am son of so and so. That's one way of identifying yourself. But as an individual, showcase to me your individuality, your personality traits. So talk to me about the person who is in front of me, not the identity that you derive from something else. Okay? Talk about your characteristics. Talk about what you like, what you dislike, what are your hobbies, what are your strengths. Ideally not weaknesses. And don't say that, okay, sir, my strengths are this, my hobbies are this. Don't make a list of it. It should be natural. The flow should be natural. What are your accomplishments? Because your accomplishments tells me about your strengths, ideally. So you don't have to highlight what are your strengths separately. If you say that you are a person who plays and wins tournaments in games, I know that you are a person who likes challenges, because everybody knows that gaming and winning tournaments is a challenging task. If you are not up to it, you would not be doing that, right? Similarly, if you are saying that you are a person who likes to play a game called chess a lot, I know that you are an analytical thinker, otherwise you would not like chess. So there are certain points you can certainly tell them without directly mentioning it. So make use of this. Ideally, I would say 60 to 90 seconds. Sometimes you have a nice name. You can start off by explaining the meaning of a name. Some of you might not have a very common name. For example, my name is very common, Srinivas. So the place where Sri is, you can talk about wealth resides, right? That's one way. The other way of meaning of the name Srinivas is Lord Srinivas. There are many ways, but again, it's a very common name. There's no point me starting like that. But somebody who has a very peculiar name, for example, one of my students' name, I hope he doesn't mind me taking his name. His name is Vyom. Not something that you come across very, very often. And I asked him, what is your name? What is the meaning of your name? He told me the meaning of the name Vyom is sky. Very peculiar. You can actually start talking your introduction saying that, sir, my name is Vyom. In fact, I'm named after, the meaning of a name is sky. And then you can say that, sir, there are some similarities that I want to talk to you about me, and I want to explain myself, or I want you to know about some things of mine which are similar to sky. In fact, so basically the logic you're talking about is make it different from what others do. I'm just giving you some examples. You can think of making your introduction different from others in any one of these or many of these ways. But please don't stick to a tried and tested template. People are bored. At the end of 30 interviews in a day or 40 interviews in a day, every one of you are giving me the same templated interview. So I will not remember who you are at the end of the day. Remember, your introduction should have a lasting impact. Even after 5 days, I should feel, yes, that guy, third day morning, the first student who came, wonderful interview. That is the feeling you should leave. Okay. Then the second part which they will talk about is your motivation and aspiration, which will result in the type of two questions, which basically motivation and aspiration will be tested in two ways. One is, why do you want to do an MBA? And the other question could be goals, life goals. Both of these can be asked to you, or one of these can be asked to you. So once again, remember, why do you want to do an MBA? Truly, frankly speaking, if you ask me why did I do my MBA, it's because I didn't like engineering. But that option, you cannot give it to them. The second reason, if you ask me, I'll say it will give you better package. That also you cannot give. The two most possible correct reasons for you, unfortunately, you cannot talk there, right? So then what do you do? So then you are supposed to look at something which they like to listen to, but which should be true in your case. To at least, if not the first two reasons, it should be at least in the fifth or sixth level for you. What are these? So first, understand what does an MBA give you. If you don't understand what an MBA gives you, apart from change of job and a salary, that is not sufficient. That's very, very shallow. So if you don't understand what an MBA gives you, then okay, Nandan is saying, please tell when the IIFT answer key is going to be declared. Nandan, frankly, IIFT answer key should be declared in the next 1 week or so. To be very honest, I don't remember how was it done last year, but it will not take too much of time. It will come out fast. It will come out faster than CAT. Yeah, I think it will be faster than CAT, because usually IIFT happens before CAT. They release it within a week of CAT exam being done. But even now, I can say that they are quick. They might end up giving the answer key faster than CAT. So by the end of this month, you can expect anytime before the end of the month. Anyway, so coming back to this. So you're talking about why do you want to do an MBA? The reason could be about something that the MBA will give you, which is not money, which is not a job. So it is a growth in your career, which otherwise you cannot get. If spoken English is poor, what to do? Pawan, there's no choice but for you to, there's no choice for you but to improve your English. It's like saying that you're going to CAT exam, but your maths is poor. What can you do? You have to get your minimum cutoff in your quant, right? Similarly, if your spoken English is poor, there is a problem for you. It's a serious problem, because the interview is going to be conducted only and only in English. You can't say that my English is poor, so I want to speak in Hindi. They will not allow that. And if your English is poor, unfortunately, it will give you poor marks in the interview too. So make sure that you practice as much as you can over the next few days, and at least whoever is mentoring you, make sure that you practice the answers properly, these standard answers. Anyway, coming back to this, why MBA question should be dealt with what you want to do or see over the next 22 to 3 decades. So let us say that your goal or aspiration in life is to reach some kind of a responsible position. Describe the position that you're going to be seeing yourself doing in the next 20 years. And then say that, sir, if I want to see myself doing that, probably an MBA will help me. It's not that, then the question could be that, is this the only way for you to reach that position? Definitely that's not the only way. But yes, this is one of the ways which is tried and tested, which people have succeeded, and the success rate is higher. This is one of the ways in which you can deal with why MBA. There are many ways that you can deal with an MBA depending upon what. So one other reason could be somebody is from the commerce background and they like finance and they want to get into a finance stream. They want to see themselves being a financial expert. So yes, that could be a reason why you want to do an MBA, and actually you're getting more specific saying that, sir, I want to do not just an MBA, I want to go ahead and say that I want to do an MBA in finance because of so and so and so and so so and so reasons. So you have to do a soul searching of, within yourself, see what is the reason, apart from the shallow reasons that we spoke about, what are the other reasons why MBA is suitable to you, right? So then the third question they can talk about are your strengths and weaknesses. So when you're talking about strengths and weaknesses, keep one point in mind. When you talk about strength, please give 2 to 3 strengths minimum with one example in your life where the strength has been displayed. Okay, I've got one more question. I've got 50 marks in CAT 2022. What can I expect call from any of the IITs? Nandan, 50 marks would be what? Somewhere around 80 percentile, was it? What is the percentile that's been shown? Somewhere around 80 percentile? 80 to 85 percentile. you can expect some of the IITs, not the IIT top two IITs, but I think probably a Madras at 80 percentile could give you 85 percentile could give you a call, but not the top 2 or 3. Not Kharagpur, definitely not Bombay and Delhi, and not even Kharagpur. Okay. Anyway, so strengths. Please keep in mind you have to talk about 2 to 3 strengths, not just the strength, an event or something from your life where the strength has been displayed. You have to have that in your backup because they can ask you. The second thing is weaknesses. Now, many forums, many people online talk about all kinds of nonsense. They say that, look, you should not talk about weaknesses. Right? They're asking me weaknesses. How can I not talk? Okay, if you want to talk about a strength as a weakness, all that is crap. A weakness is something which is affecting you negatively. As simple as that. So when they ask you a weakness, just shut up and talk about weaknesses. Okay? Don't try all the funda that you find on lot of nonsensical forums. A weakness is something which is hampering you. You should make sure that you only talk about weaknesses that are hampering you, that are stopping you from achieving something in your life. And again, if you are talking about 3 strengths, talk about 1 weakness. You can't say that I have 3 strengths and I have 10 weaknesses. Ideally, don't do that. So you should look at 1, max 2 weaknesses. But with weakness, once again, you need to have an example where the weakness has affected you negatively. But unlike your strength, there is a third point also in weaknesses that you have to keep in mind. See, you are a manager material, right? That's what you're trying to prove them. You know there is a flaw in you, which is a weakness. Nobody is perfect. So then the question is, as a manager or as a wannabe manager, if you know there's something wrong in the team, are you doing something to fix it? Similarly, if you know there is something wrong in you, are you trying to fix it? What is the plan of action to overcome the weakness? This is a third extra point you have to think for every weakness that you come up with. So for weaknesses, there are 3 points. What is the weakness? Where or when has this weakness affected you? And what are you doing to mitigate this weakness, which is a very, very important part. Okay, so please make sure that these 3 points are ready for your strengths and weaknesses. And the 4th point is general awareness, which I already spoke about. Then they can also talk about your achievements. They can talk to you about your achievements. They can ask you questions about it. They can ask you what you have gone through it. Is it really difficult, easy? How did you feel? All these kind of basic questions. Then they can talk to you about the subject knowledge. This is very important. Now, what is this subject about? So, if you are a student who is less than or equal to 2 years, then guaranteed you should prepare graduation subjects. At least 2 to 3 subjects thoroughly. If you are a student who has more than 2 years experience, then still you have to prepare, but probably 1 subject. At least 1 or 2 subjects. 2 if you have time, but 1 at least thoroughly. For example, I am a mechanical engineer. So if I have to prepare 1 subject, it will ideally be either thermodynamics or I'll prepare IC engines, internal combustion engines. So I can prepare both, but at least 1 subject I should have, because remember, you studied, at least I studied engineering for 4 years. It's a different issue. I did it 15 years back. So I can escape today saying that, look, 15 years back, I don't remember anything now. But you guys are all with 1-2 years of experience, even 3 years of experience, you cannot say that statement because you have studied the subject for 4 years. Something you have learned for 4 years, at least learned for 4 years. You might not have learned, but you would have at least been taught something. You cannot say that you've forgotten it in 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. That's the logic with which they go. Because in a 2-year program for MBA, if they teach you something then, will you forget it in 1 year? So that is the way in which they extrapolate. So you should prepare the subject knowledge. Again, when you're talking about subject knowledge, it is not about formulae by hearting. It's more about the principles involved. It is more about the concept involved. It is more about the logic involved. Nobody's going to ask you to sit there and come up with a formula. But what is the idea behind it? What principle has been used? That is what they will test you on. So this is definitely a point which you have to prepare. Some institutes, in fact, last year like IIT, IIM Amritsar and IIM Nagpur, I believe, where some institutes, they were conducting interviews, and in their interviews, they did not ask graduation. They went to 12th class standard, integration, differentiation for people who are from the maths background. People who are from the science background or from the commerce background, they went back to the basics of accounting. something that you're taught in your 11th and 12th standard. So they go to that extent also because they are basics. Why are they doing it? Because they want to see how strong your logic is. See, the meaning of integration or differentiation, I'm a maths guy, so I talk about it. Even another 10 years, I will not forget. I might forget the formulae which are used there. But the meaning, what is the meaning of integration, the logic behind it, what is the meaning of differentiation, the logic behind it, limits, continuity, that logic I will never forget. Because that is the meaning of, see, if you by heart something, you'll forget. If you understand something, you'll never forget. Similarly, if you're talking about accounts or biology for that matter, if you purely by heart it, you'll forget the scientific names. But if you understand the process of it, you will never forget the idea behind it. So they will look at these aspects of yours. Are you a student who by hearts or are you a student who understands? And that is the reason why they go back to the 11th and 12th class and ask you questions based on that. Okay? And so these are the basic areas which they can definitely test you on, apart from what we spoke about, general awareness and other things, right? So this is typically what happens in interview. Interview can last up to 25 minutes. Last year, there are certain institutes which finished in 7 to 8 minutes also. So it's, I think IMT Ghaziabad or MDI also, to some students, they finish the interview in 7-8 minutes. Now, don't worry whether it's too small or too big, doesn't matter. As long as it is happening for everyone, it means that is what they want to do, right? So 25 minutes is usually 90% of the interviews, 95% of the interviews are like that, but 5% of the institutes will finish it very, very quickly. For whatever reason, they know they have their own reasons, okay? So this is basically, my friends, what happens in interview. And I hope you keep this one thing in mind. Throughout the interview, keep your cool. If you don't know an answer, please tell them that, sir, I'm extremely sorry, sir, but I don't know the answer. It is proper, it is okay for you to say, I don't know. This is a valid answer in an interview. Only thing is, please don't say that for every question, right? You're supposed to know at least some things. But yeah, once in a while they ask you questions to which you don't know the answer. Politely say that, sir, I don't know. But the only thing you have to keep in mind is, don't lose your cool. Don't get into an argument with the panel there, or don't feel threatened by them. They are not there to sit and eat you or beat you. They are there to assess you, right? And the assessment will be going perfectly well as long as you are maintaining your cool. That is the mantra as far as this interview round is concerned. Right, so I hope I'll get back to you, see you in the further sessions of mine. I'll be taking sessions on WAT, I'll be taking sessions on GDs also, but GD is very less relevant today. But yes, I'll be doing, and of course, most importantly, I'm coming back to you with a lot of MBA entrance exam analysis. 23rd, that is 3 days from now, I'm going to do the SNAP analysis. So those of you writing SNAP third slot, be there with me as soon as the exam is done. So I think around 4:30, I'll be doing the analysis. I'll be discussing the questions and the key. I'll also be doing the ZAT analysis with my colleague Mr. Gautam Bawa. So we'll be there coming back to you with a ton of analysis. And of course, in January, we're going to start off with MAHCT preparation and your CMAT preparation. So be in tune, stay tuned to our channel. If you have not already subscribed, please subscribe right now. Give me a like on this particular video, as well as click on the notification button, my friends, because you will get complete information about all the sessions that are planned for you. Thank you and see you in the next one.